wait for everybody to sit down. It's more relaxed. Okay, well, I will start by introducing myself a little bit. As he said, I started at the age of 9, and it was actually because my father bought a computer for himself, and he really didn't know what to do with it, and it was MS-DOS, and you know, that was hard. So we bought a book, and together we figured stuff out, and I started building little programs. And it was lots of fun, but really a different world from now, I think. At the moment I'm working at Fox IT, which is why I'm actually also here. Well, not actually why, but Fox IT made me really, really curious about security. But even before that, something happened, which I will tell you about later. I'm also a member of Women in Cybersecurity. I don't know if you know them, but there's a worldwide network of 700 women. And actually that's the reason why I'm speaking here, because they asked, and it's a really cool network. And I hope it helps getting more women into security. And as you can see, I have my own 3 women in security, my 3 daughters. And actually the oldest one got a tablet when she was 8 years old. And she had immediately put a code on it, like a white code. And then after a few days, she decided that she wanted to have a real password on it because she thought the code was not safe enough. So I was really proud. And and the middle one, she's 6 years old. We were at the dinner table, and she said, everybody in the world is really, really sweet. And then her sister said, no, there's also bad guys. She said, yeah, that's right. You have burglars and you have hackers. So that's my 3 women in cyber. I'm also very curious about who you are. I guess you must be in that picture, but I'm really curious, who of you is still programming at the moment? Oh, that's quite a few. And who of you is hacking or pen testing? That's a little bit less, but still quite a few. And who is doing something in management or team management? Okay, that's nice. It's a nice spread. The contents of this talk is, first I'm going to tell you the way I got into security and the way I think what happened. And from there I went on to, at first it was from building applications that I got aware about security. And then I started working for security companies. So I also have some nice stories about what happened there. After that, I will try to explain the way I think that organizations that are not really mature yet could try to get there. And of course, we're here at a conference with people who know exactly how to do this. They have great standards, and OWASP is one of them. But still, it can be really hard to get this done inside your organization. And also, it can be really hard to convince your management to really invest in this, money-wise or time-wise. So I will end with some hints about that. So I'll start with the story. When I was programming myself, I think I started my first full-time job in 2001. But before I was, of course, going to university and building stuff. But then I started to work for an employer, and you had to build lots of applications. I did mainly web applications, and actually I tried to be as secure as possible, but you know, some things take time, and sometimes you really don't know what you're doing, and you know, we were just having fun. We were putting things on a web. It was 2001. Hacking was not that common. Of course, we did it with each other sometimes, but it wasn't really an issue. And yeah, from there on, I started more like managing projects and managing development teams. At one point, I was working for a company which had 3 product development teams, which were all looking at me. And one of the teams was actually bought from another company. Actually, not the team was bought, but the software was bought. And what happened was, this was a web application, but it was not really meant to use outside of the office. So it was running in a browser, but it was never ever supposed to be online. Well, what of course happened was that management decided at one point that it should be online because it's a nice product and everybody wants this. So, you know, I got the assignment to ask the team what's needed to put this application on the web. Well, the team started laughing and then they started crying because it was serious. So I asked them, you know, what needs to be done, and please tell me what is critical, what is average, what is you know, fixed sometime. So we made a nice list of things that needs to be fixed. We made a nice estimate for see how much time it took, and it would take about 5 or 6 months to get this application to fit for the web. Well, management really didn't believe this. Actually, they used my list against me because they said, okay, just fix the first 2 points and then we go. So we started crying again. And then I decided to do something else, and I went looking around for a security company to help me, and I let them do a pen test on the application, and to write a nice report and to, you know, emphasize all the very dangerous things that could happen. And I put another estimate on top of that, how much time it would take to fix. And well, it is a happy story because in the end, they decided to never put it on the web. And to start over with a new application with same functionality and plus a bit more. So that's a happy end. But of course, I think you all know many stories where there's no happy end. So the company that I hired to do the pen test, I went working for them because it was really nice and they wrote a nice report and I was interested. So it was, I thought, okay, maybe security is a really nice area to work in. Well, I haven't regretted it since, so that's still very nice. But after that, I went working for Fox IT. I don't know whether you know them or not. They're very famous in Holland, but not everywhere. Preparing for this talk, I went talking to one of our audit guys. So they have also a pen test team, and they are going to clients to do the same work as the other company was doing for me. So I asked him whether this happened a lot, that they start testing an application, and they actually have to tell the people that build it, you know, guys, I'm sorry, but I think you need to start over. And he said, well, it used to happen quite a lot, but now things are developing and companies are getting more secure. Developers know more what they are doing. So it doesn't happen so often anymore that we really have to say, you know, guys, this is going to take you months to fix. What does happen a lot is they do pen tests and a report is written. And then they are asked again to do another pen test, and then they conclude that, you know, so the issues are fixed, or they are not really fixed, because the guys that have to fix the issues are the same guys that made the mistakes in the first place. They don't know actually what they are doing, which is quite a big problem, because it's a good step that they decided to take a pen test, but they cannot really act on the consequences of this pen test. So another thing that he said is nowadays developers are using more and more templates, and that's good. Templates or open standards or things programmed by the community, and this works really well as long as you are using the right version of a good template. But it works better than programming, you know, coding for yourself, because a lot of people thought about it. And he notices also when pen testing that they find a lot less mistakes than they did before. Only there's one little problem, and sometimes you want the application to do something that's outside of your templates, and then you have to build a custom thing for it. And he says, in this case, when actually the coders are not really used to building for themselves anymore, the add-ons are even buggier than, you know, the original code would be if we would test. So I thought it was a very interesting development, that you think it's going okay if people using standards, but if you go outside them, you have to be extra, aware that it can go wrong. So that was really nice. And I also asked him something else, and that is actually when you pen test something, what are you doing? And he said, well, I don't know, which one of you were pen testers? Can you explain me what you do when somebody asks you to pen test their application? Or maybe you can't hear. Wait.
Yeah, so I start my intercepting proxy and then do a lot of requests to the web application, and try to break things by issuing requests that the application doesn't doesn't expect.
Okay. And are you using any tools?
Yeah, Burp Suite mainly, and some Nikto, and some other tools.
Okay.
Mainly Burp.
Okay. Thanks. And well, that's exactly what he told me. They're running a few tools on. They're also using Nessus and some other tools. And once then you're doing your specific requests. And what he says is actually when the tools are finished, you really start to think, how can I break this? I want to break this, and I don't know. I don't mind what way, and really specific for this application. And also for myself, since I started coding and not really thinking about breaking it, this was, and I read some trainings also that we do at our office, it's really a different mindset if you're looking at an application and trying to break it, then you're trying to build something. So what he told me is actually that he would like, he's not a coder, but he's a breaker, as the on the schedule also is pointed out. He would like for every coder to be a breaker, to be able to think like a breaker. And I joined Hack in the Box in Amsterdam, and I was playing Capture the Flag there. And I learned that I need to learn a lot more, but it was really fun to think this way and actually really different from coding. I think personally it helps you that you can build a script to do something, but first you have to think what you want to do. So think maybe one of you is inside such a company, but you are a company and you did pen testing, and the pen test said, it's quite a crappy application that you built. You need to do something else. What are you going to do to make it villain-proof? Now, I already said before, you really need to make people think like a villain. So the coders, the testers, but also the product manager has to think, not only what happens when an idiot is behind the keyboard. No, what happens when the villain is trying to use my application. Well. And also when we have coders in our training, we notice that they are actually, once they get the mindset, they are actually quite good at breaking it, because they know the structures, which is very nice, but they do need to get this awareness. So something else that you can do, and I just use my, the standards or my standards or Scrum or anything that goes and that helps. But I think OWASP has a really nice standard, the Open Sum, which is really nice and which also can help you gradually change your processes. But also the Microsoft Secure Development Lifecycle is a really, really nice guideline to use if you want to improve. But for me personally, I think that you really should think about what happens now. So what happens in your development process? What are you experiencing now? What are you missing? And then really start adding some security to it, maybe also changing your process a little bit, but also decide that sometimes things are really outside of your team and not really, you will not be able to solve it within your own team. So start with easy changes. So I don't know whether you are doing this already on a daily basis, but for instance, the automatic pen test tools that we mentioned, you can also run them in your nightly builds if you are not doing that yet. So that's really, it costs maybe a lot of money to get the right tools, costs a little time to implement them right, but it's really easy actually to make this step. Other easy change can be, how many times are you working on an architecture, an application architecture? It's really at the beginning of your process usually, and it's not something that you do every week. So please, if you start an architecture, really involve all the people within your organization that have a security mind, but maybe also from outside the organization. It's a small step, but it's really, it can really help. Well, you can also make a backup plan, and well, this may be a little bit far-fetched, because of course you cannot ask your customers that are using your products to start using endpoint protection or to start network monitoring. It's maybe a little bit far-fetched, but you can do it for yourself. You can think about these things, and when you're a serious development company, you might consider using network monitoring. It's quite a good idea. And that you might consider using a good endpoint protection solution, not one that's based on whitelisting, but one that is actually looking at the behavior of the applications. And you can learn from it if your tools are running on the same system or your product. Okay, now is the hardest part, because you know maybe better than me that you want inside your development process, you want to improve it, and you want to really secure develop. But your manager is not going to give you time for this because the product needs to be finished. Sometimes they do, but in a lot of cases they don't. So this is a really old one, but you probably all know this. It's the amount of cost you have if you fix a bug early in the process or late in the process. I also have a variation which I thought was very funny, but actually the bug doesn't get bigger, but it costs more to fix it. And the same goes for vulnerabilities or security problems. There's nothing different about it. It's still, if you are very late, you're already online, you need to fix it in production environments, it's so much more expensive. And I think that management is really sensitive to arguments like this. Now this is another example. It's more like a numbers example of the same. It's expensive to fix bugs on a production environment. And there's one thing that's not even taken into account here, and that's when a client is going to sue you because he has data loss or he has reputation damage because your application wasn't safe. So I think these arguments are very important to mention and also to repeat to your management. And another thing that is really important is you have to spread the feeling, and I think only the people that are security aware are able to do this, that security is a shared responsibility. It's not a technical problem, it's everybody has to help to make stuff secure. And I think I'm preaching to the choir, but but you are the people that can spread the word inside your own organizations if it's necessary. And from my own experience, sometimes getting a report from an external organization can really help. And it can be on different subjects. It can be on your application, but it can also be on your the security maturity of your organization. And also sometimes letting someone help to get things better. Now another thing is that I think security still should be a choice. So if you are having a hard time getting the things that you want in your organization security-wise, then maybe you should also explain why you want them, and maybe don't want everything at once, but just start with the most important things. and make it a conscious decision for the decision maker. So also tell him what happens if he decides not to, and then agree upon, you know, what you are going to do and what you're not going to do. Well, that's all that I have slide-wise. Does anyone have any questions? Okay.
Do you really think that security is a choice? Just because maybe it's just lack of understanding or lack of knowledge, if you think that insecurity is also a choice?
Mm-hmm.
Just
Yeah. The question was, do you think security is really a choice? Or is it just a question of people not knowing what they are doing? Well, I think security in general is not a choice, but specific security on specific specific measures on specific parts of your process is really a choice. And also the consequences of not taking a certain security measure can be acceptable.
As a pen tester, I usually get involved pretty late in the process, near the production phase.
Mm-hmm.
You explained that bugs are pretty expensive then to solve that.
Yeah.
Do you have any alternative to earlier pen testing or requirements?
Yeah. Yeah, you can. You can actually also during development start pen testing already. Once you have enough, code ready, but you can just start. And I think the OpenSum also describes this on which parts on your process you can do this. And actually, if you're developing, I don't know whether are you developing agile or not.
Well, as a pen tester.
No, your team. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, he said that it differs per client in which states they are involved in the pen testing, and is there a way to convince them to do it in a different stage? I think there is, especially when you have a good relationship with this client. Okay, of course you have a lot of clients that just call, I'm almost finished, can you help me with a pen test? Then but for every other application that they are asking you to pen test, you can build a relation and tell them that, involve me earlier, or maybe let me even look at your architecture before you start.
You mentioned nightly reviews in a way to increase the working on that. Selecting the correct tool is important.
Mm-hmm.
Which ones do you recommend?
Well, I know that we are using Nessus and Burp. Oh, sorry. The question was that I talked about nightly builds and testing in your nightly builds, and which pen tests I would recommend. Well, I know that Nessus and Burp are really good, but I'm not a pen tester, so I can't really give a good advice on that. I think it also depends on, you have to look at, how easy is it to install them and to incorporate them in your process. But there's probably people here who know.
Other questions? Okay, so that's one more.
In the very beginning, you talked about the children.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of a security advice, or what the most essential things in terms of security would you share with them? What should they be aware of security?
Okay, and the question was, I talked about my children, and he wants to know what I think is absolutely necessary to tell my children security-wise. Well, I think I tell them about everything. If they start coding, I will tell them different things, but things like don't put your private things online, don't put your photos online, don't communicate with anybody that you don't know, but also lock your devices and things like that. Yeah, I think it's too much to and it starts from really small, and
Okay, thank you so much, Liesbeth.